There's a certain kind of girl who keeps showing up online, the one who swears she's not like other girls, rolls her eyes at feminism, and tells you she just gets along better with guys. She's effortlessly chill, effortlessly agreeable, and somehow always positioned a little above the rest. You've seen her before. She used to be the cool girl, the one eating burgers in a tiny dress and watching football with perfect eyeliner. But lately, she's evolved. Now she might be a tradwife, baking sourdough in soft focus, or a high-value woman, podcasting about the divine feminine. Maybe she's a soft girl devoted to her skincare and submission, whispering about safety and protection like they're luxuries. However she looks, the story is the same. A woman defining herself, not by who she is, but what she is not. And more importantly, by what men say they want. But here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't hate the Pikmi girl because she's wrong. We hate her because she's familiar. Because every woman at some point has been taught that being chosen is the closest thing to being safe. The Pikmi girl isn't new. She's just the latest rebranding of an ancient archetype built on apology, desire, and the illusion of specialness. And she's getting out of control not because she's rare, but because she's everywhere. So in this video, we're tracing her evolution from the cool girl to the tradwife, from survival to spectacle, and asking why, even in an age obsessed with empowerment, women are still performing to be picked by a system that was never built to set them free. And hello everyone, my name is Laura and welcome to my channel. Chapter 1, the birth of the Pikmi, from cool girl to the not like other girls. The Pikmi girl didn't appear out of nowhere. She's not a TikTok invention or a Gen Z phenomenon. She's a product of decades of cultural storytelling that trained women to believe that the highest form of power is being chosen by a man. Her DNA runs through every romantic comedy, every one of the guy's sitcom characters, and every male-authored heroine who exists primarily to make him, the man, the viewer, the audience, feel. In the early 2000s, she had a name, the cool girl. She was a cultural it girl of post-Sex and the City feminism, arriving at a time when women were told they could have it all: careers, beauty, desirability, as long as they didn't complain about how exhausting that actually was. She was effortless and accommodating, the kind of woman who could down whiskey in a bodycon dress, keep up with the guys, and never appear threatened by other women. She embodied the perfect fantasy of female ease, sensual without being needy, confident without being loud, independent but never too independent. Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl captured this archetype with surgical precision. Cool girls are above all hot and understanding. Cool girls never get angry, they only smile in a loving manner and let their men do whatever they want. That monologue wasn't satire, it was a mirror. The cool girl was the woman men said they wanted and women were conditioned to become. But she didn't begin there. The cool girl was just the latest mutation in a long lineage of feminine performances built to soothe male ego. Before her came the manic pixie dream girl of the 2000s indie film era, Natalie Portman in Garden State, Zooey Deschanel in 500 Days of Summer, the whimsical woman who existed solely to teach emotional, unavailable men how to feel again. Before her was the tomboy, a girl rewarded for rejecting femininity altogether. Think Jo March in Little Women, or Scout Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Beloved for their independence, but always gently steered toward domesticity by the story's end. And further back still, the Madonna, the good woman of centuries past, pure, selfless, and patient, defined by what she endures rather than what she desires. These archetypes may look different, but they all serve the same purpose: to present the ideal woman as the exception, not the rule. The Pikmi girl was born in the spaces between these archetypes. She's the cool girl's sarcasm, the tomboy's rejection of femininity, and the Madonna's quiet endurance, stitched together and filtered through the language of social media. What connects them all is the same invisible thread: a world where women are rewarded not for solidarity, but for separation. To be desirable, you must first distinguish yourself from other girls. That idea, I'm not like them, became a kind of feminist rebellion repackaged as individuality. On early Tumblr and YouTube, it was an aesthetic and attitude. Smudged eyeliner, ripped tights, band tees, and disdain for lip gloss. She rolled her eyes at popularity and pretended she didn't care about being pretty, all while deeply craving the validation that came from rejecting girlhood itself. It's easy to mock the not like other girls trope now, but for many women growing up in a world that trivialized femininity, it felt like survival. When being girly meant being seen as shallow, when liking makeup and fashion made you vapid, when emotional honesty was labeled as hysterical, disowning femininity became a form of self-protection. The cool girl wasn't empowerment. She was a coping mechanism. She was how women learned to live in a man's world without appearing like they were trying to change it. By being the chill girlfriend, the easygoing co-worker, the girl who just gets guys, she could exist within patriarchy while pretending she was somehow above it. But there's a cost to building your identity around being the exception. The more you perform ease, the more you have to suppress your real feelings, your jealousy, your anger, your complexity, the very things that make you human. And then came the internet, a place where the Pikmi didn't just survive, she thrived. Online, every persona could be curated, every insecurity masked by irony. The cool girl became the meme, the manic pixie became the influencer, and not like other girls became a viral format. What used to be private self-denial became public performance. Social media gave women new ways to broadcast their individuality, but it also amplified the very hierarchies that we're trying to escape. The Pikmi girl found her perfect stage, one where she could perform ease, mock complexity, and be rewarded for it in likes, views, and attention. And that's the quiet tragedy of the archetype. She's not acting out of malice, she's acting out of learned behavior. The Pikmi is what happens when you internalize the idea to be loved. You must first reject yourself. The internet didn't invent her, it just gave her a microphone, an audience that still can't look away. Chapter 2, The Digital Age of the Pikmi. Validation as performance. If the cool girl was born in the movies, the modern Pikmi was reborn online. The digital age didn't just amplify her, it made her profitable. What once lived quietly in social behavior or private insecurity now lives in content strategy. The Pikmi girl discovered that her self-effacement could go viral. In the early 2010s, her voice echoed through Twitter threads and YouTube comment sections. She was the girl tweeting that other girls wear too much makeup, that she hates drama, that she's just one of the guys. It was casual, almost harmless. A tone of detached humor, making something deeper. She wasn't just trying to be funny, she was trying to be seen. These posts weren't just cries for validation so much as proof of distinction. To be different from other women meant to be worthy of attention in a digital world that rewards scarcity. But when TikTok arrived, everything changed. The platform didn't just give women a voice, it gave them an algorithm they watched, measured, and rewarded every choice they made. On TikTok, identity isn't static, it's strategic. Each video is a performance, a curated slice, a personality designed for virality. And in this landscape, the Pikmi archetype evolved into a genre. Now, femininity itself is a form of digital currency, and the Pikmi is one of the most active investors. She's no longer just the girl who avoids girly things. She's the influencer who openly mocks feminism, the podcaster who preaches obedience as empowerment, the tradwife arranging her table settings under vintage filters while explaining that modern women are too masculine. She jokes about staying in the kitchen with a wink and a half smile, a mixture of irony and sincerity that leaves the viewer unsure where the performance ends. But beneath the irony is a deeply modern truth. She understands the economics of attention. In the influencer age, visibility equals value, and outrage drives engagement. The easiest way to stand out isn't to be kind, complex, or genuine. It's to be controversial. And the Pikmi girl, knowingly or not, plays that game masterfully. She's figured out that in our culture obsessed with gender politics, the fastest way to go viral is to flatter men while subtly belittling women. The algorithm loves her because she provokes reaction. Women duet her videos to critique her. Men share them as proof that not all women are like that. The comment sections explode. The views multiply and the performance continues. She's rewarded not for sincerity, but for the spectacle of divisiveness. Her appeal lies in relatability, but that relatability is carefully curated. She knows how to embody the fantasy of a woman who is low maintenance, emotionally chill and undemanding, a woman who performs submission with a sense of irony. So it feels like choice. She might just say just wants to be taken care of, or that real femininity means peace, while ensuring the lighting, tone, and filters turn her words into aesthetic gospel. She's both brand and believer. The modern Pikmi doesn't just want approval, she monetizes it. The shift from cool girl to content creator turned performance into profit. There are entire digital industries built on this rebranded femininity. Tradwife influencers selling homemaking as self-care. High-value woman coaches offering courses on how to attract masculine men. Submission podcasts that turn 1950s ideals into motivational sound bites. The packaging is new, ring lights, sponsorships, and affiliate links, but the narrative is ancient. Be better than other women, be quieter, be easier. Be chosen. Yet beneath the pastel aesthetics and scripture quotes is a clear tension. The lifestyle she's selling isn't about genuine domestic fulfillment. It's about optics. It's the illusion of stability, the fantasy of simplicity. A curated life that looks effortlessly feminine but is sustained by relentless effort. The perfect dinner plate, the tidy home, the gentle tone. It's not authenticity, it's performance art. And that's what's haunting, is that she's not even performing primarily for men. She's performing for us. For other women, women who watch her out of fascination, envy, or critique. Because in the digital ecosystem, women are both the curators and the consumers of their own policing. We debate her, dissect her, mock her, defend her. Every reaction keeps her visible. Every stitch and comment sustain the narrative. That's the tragic brilliance of the Pikmi's digital reincarnation. She thrives on contradiction. She's simultaneously villain and victim, self-aware and oblivious, feminist and anti-feminist. She represents both the problem and the symptom. The more we resist her, the more the algorithm rewards her. And the internet didn't just invent her, it perfected her. It gave her filters, sponsorships, and a feedback loop that ensures she'll never fade. She's algorithmically immortal, her survival coded into the very mechanics of the platforms that claim to empower women. And what makes this new era of the Pikmi especially dangerous is that she no longer looks desperate for approval. She looks powerful, confident, and luxurious. But beneath that gloss, she's still performing the same ritual women have for centuries, turning themselves into content for someone else's gaze, and mistaking the gaze for love. Chapter 3, From That Girl to Tradwife, Femininity's New Obsession with Control. In the past few years, the Pikmi girl has undergone a metamorphosis. She's no longer the brash Twitter contrarian or the sarcastic cool girl rolling her eyes at feminism. She's softer now, serene, bathed in beige tones and filtered sunlight. Her world smells like vanilla and lavender. She wakes before sunrise, drinks lemon water, journals with perfect handwriting, and films it all to the sound of lo-fi piano. She calls it her soft life, her feminine era, her journey back to peace. At first glance, it looks like healing. After years of hustle culture, burnout, and girl boss exhaustion, it makes sense that women would crave something gentler. That girl aesthetic promised balance, productivity without burnout, wellness without extremism, beauty without vanity. It was marketed as a lifestyle of intentionality, of woman in control of her space, her habits, and her self-image. But underneath the pastel calmness lies the same compulsion as before. Control disguised as care. That girl wakes up early not just to feel good, but to perform feeling good. Every habit, every product, every quiet moment must be optimized, documented, and aestheticized. The soft has to look effortless, and the effortlessness takes work. Soon the aesthetic of peace begins to feel like pressure. Your skincare routine becomes your ritual of moral virtue. Your morning matcha becomes a sign of discipline. Your clean white sheets and neutral wardrobe signal not just taste but purity. It's as if modern femininity has become an optimized project, one that promises ease but demands constant vigilance. Then quietly the pendulum swings even further. That girl who sought balance evolves into the Tradwife, the woman who claims liberation not through independence, but through submission. She speaks about the divine feminine, but returning to traditional values, about how modern women have lost touch with their natural roles. Her feeds are filled with floral dresses, home-cooked meals, and Bible verses about obedience. The lighting is soft, the tone is nurturing. The message is seductive. This is what peace looks like. But look closer and you'll see that it's not peace, it's perfection. Both the That Girl and the Tradwife promise freedom through surrender. But what they're really selling is control. Control over the uncontrollable. The That Girl controls her time, her diet, her routine. The Tradwife controls her environment, her marriage, her family's image. Both women are trapped in the same feedback loop. Self-worth through self-discipline. The modern Pikmi no longer says, I'm not like other girls. She whispers, I'm better at being a woman than other women. She doesn't reject femininity, she monopolizes it. She's not begging to be chosen anymore. She's presenting herself as the ultimate prize, the gold standard of feminine virtue. And that's what makes this version of the archetype so intoxicating. Her power looks gentle, but it's built on the same scaffolding of patriarchy. She calls her submission a choice, her obedience empowerment, her domesticity divine. But the hierarchy hasn't changed. Only the aesthetic has. Linen dresses have replaced lipstick. Cottagecore kitchens have replaced cocktail bars. The message is the same. The good woman is the one who makes herself small, pretty, and perfectly unthreatening. And yet, there's a new kind of shame that emerges from this, not for being too feminine, but for being the wrong kind of feminine. If you're not soft enough, slow enough, clean enough, you're failing at womanhood in a different language. Even self-care becomes surveillance. Every act of rest must prove its worth. Every hobby must be productive. Every moment of stillness must be aesthetically pleasing. It's ironic that that girl and the Tradwife both claim to reject hustle culture, but they're simply repackaged it in satin ribbons. They're still hustling, just for different masters. Instead of chasing promotions, they're chasing perfection. Instead of corporate validation, they're chasing divine approval or digital admiration. They've turned femininity into a job, with no days off. And that's the quiet heartbreak of this new Pikmi. She believes she's opting out of patriarchy by embracing softness, but she's still working for its approval. Just in prettier clothes, she's built herself a velvet-lined cage and mistaken it for a sanctuary. Because here's the truth that no influencer, coach, or curated morning routine will ever admit. You can't self-care your way out of a system that profits from your insecurity. So whether you're that girl sipping matcha before a Pilates, or a Tradwife baking bread in a floral apron, the question remains painfully the same. Who are you doing it for? For peace or for proof? For yourself or for the gaze that never stops watching? When femininity becomes a brand, even rest becomes performance. And before you know it, you've optimized yourself right back into the same old prison. Only this time it smells like vanilla, glows in natural light, and feels so much prettier on camera. Chapter 4, The Class Politics of the Pikmi. There's another dimension to the Pikmi archetype that often gets overlooked, a quieter, more insidious force that shapes how femininity is performed: class. Because in today's culture, being desirable isn't just about beauty, charm, or submission, it's about access. It's about money. Every polished surface of the effortless woman comes at a cost. The perfect skincare routine, the weekly Pilates classes, the clean beige apartment with diffused morning light. None of it is effortless. It's expensive. The image of femininity that dominates social media, serene, delicate, and soft, requires both time and capital to maintain. It's not just about who you are. It's about what you can afford to look like. The modern Pikmi performs effortlessly the same way old money families perform modesty, by hiding the labor that makes it possible. Her calm comes from the ability to outsource chaos. She doesn't clean the kitchen because someone else does. Her mornings are peaceful because her time isn't consumed by survival. Even her so-called simple life, her homemade bread, her cottagecore garden, is an aesthetic of abundance, not restraint. It's not really minimalism, it's the luxury of pretending you don't care about luxury. Historically, this dynamic isn't new. In the 19th century, upper-class women were praised for their purity, fragility, and refinement precisely because they had servants, mostly working-class women, to perform the physical and emotional labor that sustained their image. Their delicate hands, pale skin, and leisure time were signs of class distinction. Being soft wasn't a personality trait, it was a status symbol. Today's digital Pikmi continues that tradition. She just hides it behind the language of choice. Her lifestyle looks accessible. Anyone can become feminine in it if they just put in the work. But that work often requires the kind of financial freedom most women don't have. It demands beauty treatments, wellness retreats, gym memberships, aesthetic decor, and the time to maintain them all. The result is a culture where the ability to look soft is proof that your life isn't hard. Softness, once a temperament, has become a commodity, something you can buy through curated consumption. But the irony is that softness doesn't exist exist without someone else's labor. Behind every influencer's clean kitchen is a hidden worker. Behind every effortless morning routine is a late-night editing session, a sponsorship deal, a delivery driver dropping off groceries. The appearance of calm is built on invisible work, either someone else's or her own exhaustion disguised as grace. Meanwhile, working-class women are told they're too harsh, too masculine, and too angry, as if the realities of their lives are personality flaws. They're scolded for surviving without softness, when in truth, softness itself has become a privilege. You can't radiate tranquility when you're running from one job to another, when your hands are tired from care work, when peace isn't affordable. Yet online, the message is clear. The feminine ideal belongs to the woman who has time, money, and bandwidth to maintain it. That's what makes a modern Pikmi so culturally powerful and so insidious. She disguises class aspiration as femininity. To embody her is to signal not just that you're desirable, but that you're above the struggle. Her elegance, her stillness, her devotion, they're not just romantic, they're class-coded. She's proof that submission, when packaged correctly, can look like luxury. Her world is soft lighting and long dresses, not because submission freed her, but because money did. But beneath the calm surface, there's another story playing out, one of quiet anxiety. The higher the aesthetic standard climbs, the more pressure that she feels to maintain it. The Pikmi's peace isn't real peace, it's performance anxiety in satin gloves. Every moment is curated, every corner styled, every word chosen carefully to preserve the illusion of serenity. And that's the cruelest twist. The Pikmi performs peace while privately drowning in perfectionism. She preaches femininity as freedom, while privately policing herself for signs of imperfection. She's sold as aspirational, but the truth is isolating. Living for the gaze, whether it's the male gaze, the algorithmic gaze, or the imagined envy of another woman, means never really living at all. Beneath the layers of linen, skincare, and softly spoken wisdom, the Pikmi isn't selling a lifestyle. She's selling security, the illusion that if you're beautiful enough, compliant enough, controlled enough, you'll be safe. But in a world that still values women by how pleasing they appear, that safety is a mirage. It can disappear with age, with money, with one moment of defiance. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy of it all. The modern Pikmi has turned survival into aesthetic, and exhaustion into elegance. Chapter 5, The Feminine Rebellion, Reclaiming Desire, Not Performing It. Maybe that's why the Pikmi keeps coming back. Not because women haven't learned, but because the culture hasn't changed. She's not the enemy, she's a symptom of a world that still teaches women that love is conditional and approval must be earned. She's what happens when girlhood collides with survival, when you grow up believing that to be wanted you must first be useful. Since the beginning of modern womanhood, desire, that raw human force of wanting, has been written as labor. Women were taught to work for what should have been instinctive: affection, safety, and belonging. We learn to perform the version of ourselves most likely to be loved. And when that doesn't work, we perform harder. We diet, we smile, we soften our words. We call it maturity. We call it being low maintenance. But really, it's endurance dressed up as elegance. The Pikmi's story isn't just about validation. It's about exhaustion. She represents the countless small ways women have been trained to turn longing into service. We cook not just to feed, but to be appreciated. We clean not for comfort, but to prove care. We make ourselves smaller physically and emotionally and intellectually so that someone else can feel big beside us. It's invisible labor, both domestic and emotional, and it's centuries old. From the angel of the house in the Victorian era to the perfect wife of the 50s, women have always been taught that devotion equals worth. But now, in a world of digital visibility, that devotion has become a public spectacle. We document our selflessness, aestheticize our vulnerability, and call it empowerment. But often what we're really doing is rebranding sacrifice as self-care. That's why the true rebellion isn't to mock the Pikmi, but to understand her and to see ourselves within her, because every woman has performed at some point. Every woman has adjusted her laugh, her tone, her outfit, her opinions to fit what would be rewarded. Every woman has mistaken approval for safety. The Pikmi isn't an outlier, she's a mirror. To escape her cycle, we have to redefine femininity itself. Not something to earn value, but something that already has value. We have to stop performing for the gaze, whether it's the male gaze, the algorithmic gaze, or even the feminist gaze, and start performing for ourselves. We have to reclaim femininity not as submission for spectacle, but as for self-expression. That means allowing mess, contradiction, and imperfection. It means letting femininity be playful, strange, and even defiant. To wear lipstick because it feels like armor, not bait. To rest because we're tired, not to post about balance. To be ambitious without apology and soft without fear. It means remembering that femininity is not a brand, it's a language, and we get to decide how we speak it. Real femininity isn't about being chosen, it's about choosing. Choosing how to move, what to wear, who to love, and what to reject. The Pikmi asks to be validated, the liberated woman asks to be understood. One performs for acceptance, the other acts out of agency. And that agency, that quiet internal yes to yourself, is the most radical thing a woman can cultivate in a culture built on her compliance. The feminine rebellion doesn't begin in outrage, it begins in presence, in the simple act of being fully in your own body, your own taste, and your own rhythm. It's not loud or glamorous. Sometimes it's as small as saying no when you mean no, or wanting something without needing to justify why. Because the truth is, the most powerful thing a woman can do isn't to reject femininity. It's to stop asking permission to live it on her own terms, to stop translating every act of beauty or care into proof of worth, to stop measuring her softness by who it pleases. When you strip away the performance, what's left is an emptiness, its essence, the part of womanhood that existed before the gaze, the part that was never about being good enough, but about being alive enough. And maybe that's where the real feminine rebellion begins, not in being palatable, not in being perfect, but in being present. Because once you stop performing, you stop waiting to be chosen. And once you stop waiting, you finally remember you were never supposed to audition for your own life in the first place. We spent decades teaching women how to be chosen, how to be the cool girl, that girl, the Tradwife, the eversly perfect woman who balances beauty with obedience and calls it empowerment. And maybe that's why the Pikmi never really dies. She just changes her outfit. She trades her beer and football for sourdough and soft filters, her eyeliner for linen. The aesthetic evolves, but the performance stays the same. Because at the heart of it, the Pikmi isn't about men, it's about fear. The fear of being ordinary, the fear of being left behind, the fear of being seen as too much or not enough. She's what happens when we internalize the belief that womanhood is a competition, that to win love, we have to lose ourselves first. The culture rewards her because she makes patriarchy look palatable. She tells women that submission is peace, the performance is authenticity, that being chosen is freedom. And in a world where sustainability feels scarce, that illusion of safety is seductive. She sells comfort, not revolution, ease, not effort. But comfort built on self-erasure is not peace. It's paralysis dressed as poise. Maybe that's why we can't stop watching her, because she's not just out there on the internet, she's inside us. In every moment we bite our tongue, in every compliment we downplay, in every decision we make to be smaller, quieter, and easier to love. She's the shadow side of femininity, the part that was taught to trade authenticity for approval. And until we name her, she'll keep showing up in new clothes, on new platforms, with new slogans about empowerment that all whisper the same thing. Be good, be easy, and be wanted. But the truth is, we were never meant to be easy. We were never meant to be real. Real women are not perfect or convenient. We are complex, contradictory, ever-changing. Our softness doesn't cancel out our strength. Our ambition doesn't ease our tenderness. And our worth doesn't depend on whether anyone picks us. The end of the Pikmi isn't about rejecting femininity. It's about reclaiming it from performance. It's about remembering that femininity was never meant to be proven. It was meant to be lived. So maybe the rebellion isn't loud. Maybe it's quiet, a decision made in the mirror, or in the moments when no one's watching. Maybe that's the act of speaking, when your voice shakes, wearing what feels like you instead of what flatters. Loving in ways that makes you expansive instead of small. Maybe it's realizing that you don't have to earn your softness or your strength. Because being chosen is not the same thing as being free. And being loved for who you perform is not the same thing as being loved for who you are. The Pikmi performs peace. The liberated woman feels it. One molds herself for the world. The other builds a world that can finally hold her. And so next time you feel that quiet ache, the one that says, if I could just be better, maybe loved more. Remember this, you were never meant to compete for a gaze that doesn't see you. You were meant to stand in your own light and recognize yourself. That's the end of the Pick Me, and that's the beginning of you. And thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments below. I mean, I feel like the Pick Me will always be there. I mean, I never really knew about the Pick Me when I was younger until I started seeing it on social media, but I do see it a lot, like going through TikTok and stuff. And I see these people with these insane kitchens, and they're filming their like morning routines and all, you know what I mean, and making the beds and doing all the cleaning. And part of me is like, they're not actually doing that every day. They're just filming it now, but they probably have cleaning people doing the rest. I don't know, it's kind of weird, the whole thing. I'm like, who has time for that? Anyways, let me know in the comments below. I'm so curious about your thoughts. All right, thanks for watching.